He had a little bit of an interesting week this week. I kind of called on my training director to kind of help me out a little bit, since like overnight he was just kind of got really feisty. He wouldn't let me take the leash off. Had some issues with that, just any handling of him. Was going in the kennel fine, so that's good, but we had some issues with that, so we kind of did a lot of decompression work this week. And I think it's really important to teach you guys how to get him to decompress, because I'm sure especially, you know, if you're going to Germany and stuff with him, it's going to be really stressful. And we'll have to kind of figure out some ways to help him relieve that stress. So I'm going to show you how I have my slip leash set up right now. So I have the leash just like normal, and then I have this little lanyard thing. I think I took it off my e-collar. I clipped it to the metal sliding ring, and that way if I have Ty, because we've made the kennel such an ordeal right now because he didn't want me to take the leash off. Now my goal is to get the leash off as fast as possible so that he knows when I put you in there, we're leaving you alone. You're good. So if I have Ty, my hand is Ty, before I even make the decision really to go near the kennel, like this is totally away from the kennel, we're not headed towards it. I try to do it in a safe area just in case he does slip out. But no kennel involved. I'm just gonna move the keeper far away. At this point, you're gonna need to really pay attention to how you're holding your leash because it can loosen up very easily. That's why I say don't do this outside, because if something were to happen and he slips out, we don't want that to happen. Got it like this. So now before we even head towards that kennel, I'm going to grab my little strap, and that way I'm ready that when I send him in the kennel, I can drop my leash portion, I pull this, and then it's really easy just to get it off of his head. So it kind of expands that loop for you. So that should be kind of helpful to get him in the kennel without a whole lot of how to do with the keeper and the getting it over his big old ears and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you some of the decompression work we've been doing. Super easy stuff. Ty is very sensitive. I think part of what stressed him out this week was I have a Malinois puppy in. That's not the dog sounds you're hearing now. Believe me, that's a lot worse. And it's kind of like 24/7. She's too young for a bark collar, so just 24/7, like blah, 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 blah. I know it drives me insane. I know my husband's driven insane, and I'm sure Ty was also driven insane. So, you know, keep in mind all of your environment stuff. He's very sensitive to sound. He's very sensitive to spatial pressure. Think of like, you know, if you've ever talked to someone that stands way too close to you when you talk and you're kind of like, I'm not really about that. That's what he's feeling too. So really, you know, think about him being overstimulated if we are getting that situation where he's kind of buggy. So I'm gonna pull him out and I'll show you kind of what we've been doing. So I have him out. I'm just gonna let that line kind of drag. I'm not gonna stare at him. If he's gonna come good. All right, so I have him out. I'm just gonna let him drag this line. I'm not gonna stare at him. And I'm also gonna be really cognizant of how I'm rewarding him. So I'm gonna really softly be rewarding him with the word good. Trying to keep that as consistent as possible. But I'm gonna do a lot of turning away from him. I want him to kind of have to work to be near me. And when he wants to give me some attention, good. And I'm gonna kind of back away while I do it. You can see I kind of like bend down like this, almost like I'm going into like a pistol squat, I guess, because it's not very helpful for him to have me leaning over him. So I can kind of show you his body language may change here. If he's, you know, I'm gonna wait till he's paying attention. If I lean over him, you see how it kind of changes versus when I kind of back away. Good. You know, this is again where we're starting to think, you know, yes, he's a little tiny dog, but let's think of him as a really big dog and how our really big dog would like us to behave. And it's hard with the little dogs because you do kind of have to bend down. My arm is not long enough to feed him. So try to kind of like rock back rather than get up all in his space. But this is a great one just to do anywhere because I I'm not going to ask him to do anything. This is basically what we call free shaping in dog training. So I can show you how to free shape just about anything. You little jumpy guy. And free shaping is going to be really good for him because he's a very smart dog and he wants something to think about. He doesn't really want to be directed around. So free shaping is a great activity, even if you're not trying to do, usable obedience like down or sit or stay. You can still free shape fun stuff and that's still going to be beneficial to him. I like to use a lot of textures when I free shape just because it gives him something different to think about. I'm going to free shape him to stand on this piece of paper right now, just because I can. So I'm going to kind of walk past it, and I'm just going to stand here, and I'm going to let him figure out what he's supposed to do. And you can do this with like rolling objects, have him push them. You can do raised objects, have him get up. The place bed's great for that. Just watch him. Good. Good. And I'm just going to reward him when he's doing the behavior I like. And again, this is obviously not usable obedience. Why do we need him to stand on a piece of paper? We don't. But it's like the fun of you doing a puzzle, or those little word hunt games or anything like that. It's just mentally stimulating. Finding word search words is not going to help you in your daily life. But it's definitely fun to do when you're needing something mentally challenging. So we'll just stand here again. I'm going to kind of walk away from it. And he's kind of used to following me right now. So if I need him to get on the paper, I can kind of walk away from the paper. Good. And he should kind of want to follow me. So I'm just going to mark when he gets on that paper. Good. So I'm not keeping him on here. I'm just rewarding him for being on it. And he's going to eventually figure out that this makes the treats turn on and getting off is going to make the treats turn off. I'm going to show you me putting him up just so you can kind of see that leash work in motion. I'm going to get him some water first. So now is a great time for me to lower my keeper on my leash because it's very disconnected from the kennel because we've got a whole water break that's going to go in between him in the kennel and me pulling this down. And I've moved my camera so that it's closer to the kennel, but I'm far away from the kennel and I picked up my lanyard and now I will ask him to go in the kennel. And I'm just going to hold on to that lanyard. It's going to open that loop up and let me get the leash off really easily. Boy. And I might even give him a little treat in between the bars.